I just got back from seeing the new Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning. This is the eighth movie in the Mission Impossible series, and I think it's kind of crazy that it's the eighth one, considering I've been watching these since I was a kid. First one I ever watched was Mission Impossible 2, and it's insane that my whole life has been Mission Impossible movies pretty much. I'm 30 now, and the movies have been going for like 29 years, almost 30 years. That's one cool thing about this movie was that there was a lot of callback to the original movies. There's a lot of like flashbacks, a lot of just like, hey, remember this person, or hey, remember this part when Ethan did this? There's a lot of those. Though I didn't think that like it's substantial to watch every single movie before you watch this one. If this is your first one, I would probably suggest going and watching the first, third, and then Dead Reckoning, which is the part one to this movie's part two. If you want a lot more context into the little Easter eggs and like some of the things that they bring up, considering this is the movie where they keep advertising as everything Ethan Hunt has done has led to this point. I don't think the movie capitalized on the whole final reckoning thing. I think there was a lot of talking, a lot of just like boring buildup in this one, and it's a 2 hour and 49-minute movie. So when I say there's a lot of it, the first like hour or so is just talking and build up and not a lot of action whatsoever. And that's something that sucks here because normally Mission Impossible movies, they open with a bang and they close out with a really good bang too. This one I would say opened with a really lackluster, like just silent fart. And then it kind of ended with like a mediocre, like, okay, there could be another one. There might not be. Who knows? Whatever you guys want. I didn't love this movie. I really didn't. I didn't think this was the best one in the series whatsoever. I think it's really hard to make a Mission Impossible movie as good as Fallout. I thought Mission Impossible Fallout was definitely like the peak of these movies. And I don't think that's just because like, oh, these movies are becoming really fatiguing. I think if the sixth movie was the best one out of the entire series, I think they had a chance to make seven and eight even better if they really wanted to. And for the most part, I thought Dead Reckoning, the seventh movie, the one that came before this one, I thought Dead Reckoning was a good movie. I enjoyed majority of that movie. The one thing I hated about Dead Reckoning was that it was going to be a part one, part two situation. But I went into it going, okay, well, if Final Reckoning is the part two, then it's going to just be full of action. It's not. It's majority of that movie is a lot of talking. It's a lot of talking. And sometimes it felt like Dead Reckoning should have been the part two and Final Reckoning almost should have been part one. And I know that sounds weird saying that now, but once you see the movie, you'll notice like the pacing of Final Reckoning is very meh, it's kind of everywhere. There's just too much talking. There's just too much talking. There's not enough cool action scenes. And there's even a scene early on in the movie, like the first major action scene, it cuts away from the violence. It cuts away from the action and shows you the aftermath of it. And there's nothing worse than doing that. You want to see Ethan Hunt kick ass, so you're like, oh, I'm ready for the next one. But when they cut away from it the way they did in this movie, it really like makes that first like chunk of the movie really boring. With that being said, the second half of the movie definitely had more action. I'm going to try and refrain from telling you too many spoilers that aren't in the trailer at least. So anything I talk about, I'm going to try and make sure it's in the trailer. So like one of the cooler scenes in the movie, he's in like a diving suit, almost like a Big Daddy suit from BioShock, going to like the bottom of the ocean to find a submarine. And that scene is very quiet. It's very like dark, and obviously he's in the bottom of the ocean, so it's going to be dark. I thought the lighting in general, though, there were moments when he shoots flares off underwater so he can see and everything, and the lighting was really good. Like it was really well structured for that scene. Though the scene was like 25, 30 minutes long, it was kind of a slog to get through because it's quiet the whole time, but it was a cool scene in general. Like I thought it was nice cinematography wise. Another scene that's in the trailer that I thought was really good, and let the record show, there's only a couple of action scenes in this movie, and I know that sounds really bad, but there's only a couple action scenes in this movie. And one of the last scenes in the movie is when the bad guy and Ethan finally come face to face, and let the record show, the bad guy in this movie is very lackluster. He's barely in it. He's like a Scooby-Doo villain where he's always like, catch me if you can, it's like all the time. And he even says, catch me if you can, Ethan. And it's just really goofy and cartoony at times. And I know like Mission Impossible movies normally have a villain that's very like dastardly, you know what I mean? But like this guy just felt really, I don't know, something about him. He was better in Dead Reckoning than he was in Final Reckoning. And that again is a problem with this movie. It's very anticlimactic for being the final reckoning. But yeah, the second half of the movie, there's a big scene where Tom Cruise or Ethan Hunt is like climbing on top of an airplane, or not, it's not like a big airplane. It's like kind of like a World War II style airplane where it's like a two-seater. He's climbing on top of that while it's way up in the air, and the visuals on that are fantastic. It looks really good. He climbs from one airplane to the next one while he's fighting the main bad guy on that airplane. It's very Mission Impossible, and it's very cool looking. Unfortunately though, like that's really the only major action scene that was really good in the movie. Other than that, there's not a lot of major fight scenes. And the fight scenes, when they do happen, they're very just like, they're just kind of there. They're not really like special in any way. Other than that, though, I enjoyed all the characters. I think everybody did a good job. The team that he has in this one, it's a lot of familiar faces as well as some new faces. And I thought they were all really good. I thought there were a lot of callbacks in this one. The first like hour or so of the movie, they definitely do a lot of like callbacks to the original movies, as so much so that they show you flashbacks of the previous movies. And they also show you like flashbacks of Dead Reckoning, which is the part one of this one. And it felt like they thought that maybe people didn't watch Dead Reckoning or something. It was just kind of weird the way they were like recapping things for people who hadn't seen that movie. And it's like, why would you go and see Final Reckoning if you haven't at least seen Dead Reckoning? And it's just, I don't know, something about that just kind of irked me a little bit. But there is a lot of scenes where they show like shit from Mission Impossible 1, 2, 3, you know, stuff like that. They do like a full on montage of all the things Ethan has done over the years. And again, it makes you feel like this is the last movie. And I'm sorry, spoiler alert, this is not the last movie. It could be, like, if they really wanted it to be the last movie, it could be, but it's not. It's not the last movie. I'm sorry. It's not. So expect a ninth one, or I don't know what they're gonna do for the ninth one, but either way, I'm sure they'll find a way to make a ninth movie. These movies make a lot of money. But before I get out of here, I did just want to say this movie is okay. It's not like the worst Mission Impossible at all. I still think the second movie is probably the worst movie in the franchise. That's not because I didn't like the John Woo stuff. It just didn't really work that well, and I think that's already well documented from a lot of people. I would say the next worst one would probably be Rogue Nation. I thought that one was kind of just meh, especially coming off of Ghost Protocol. I thought Ghost Protocol was really cool, and Rogue Nation kind of just didn't hold my interest as much as all the other ones did. I would say like Final Reckoning is like right above those ones. I would say that's probably my third least favorite out of all of them. Other than that, though, I mean, it was okay. It wasn't like special or anything. It wasn't the worst, but it wasn't even close to being the best one. I would say before you go and see this movie, if there's anything you want to recap on, obviously you could watch a YouTube video on a whole recap if you really wanted to, but if you really want to get the full effect of like the callbacks and the Easter eggs, I would say the movies that they reference the most here, besides the little montage they do, I would say the movies that they definitely reference the most, I would say 3 is probably the most important movie when it comes, well, besides Dead Reckoning. You should watch part 1 before you watch part 2, of course. But I would say if you had to go back and watch any of the older ones, I would say 3 is probably the most important one for this movie specifically. A lot of shit that happened in 3 kind of like evolves into this movie a little bit more. I don't know if evolve is the right word for it, but it definitely feels like this is almost a sequel to 3 in a way. And then I would say you got to watch the first one because there's a lot of references to that one. A couple characters that are from the first movie that are in this one. And then I would say Dead Reckoning and Fallout, just because Fallout was such a badass movie. I think Fallout is still the best one in the franchise. That's the one everybody should go back and watch if they want a really good Mission Impossible movie. That and 3. I would probably say those are the 2 best ones in my opinion. Other than that, though, I thought this movie was okay. It wasn't the worst. It wasn't the best. It wasn't like mid or anything either. I don't think any Mission Impossible movie is necessarily mid. With that being said, I appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully this wasn't too long and drawn out or anything, but I would definitely recommend seeing this in theaters. I mean, it has like the submarine part like when he's underwater, that scene is really pretty. It's really nice to see. The airplane part is really, really cool. Other than that, though, it feels kind of like a bait movie, you know, like they're baiting you into going and seeing it because you think it's the last one. I don't think it's the last one. I mean, it's open for interpretation, but I don't think this is the last one. There's no mid-credit or after-credit scenes if you're interested in those. The movie just ends, and that's it. So other than that, I'd say this movie is like, I don't know, like a 7.5 out of 10. I think it's worth going to the theaters to see. If you're a Mission Impossible fan, I feel like you should go and see it, but I don't think you're going to think this is the best one whatsoever. I don't even think this is going to be in your top 3 when it comes down to it. I think there's just a lot of missed opportunities here, but Tom Cruise is still chugging on. He's still making movies, and I don't think he's ever going to stop making Mission Impossible. Regardless, though, thanks for watching. Have a good one, guys. Bye.